everyone, this is Hannah from Wonderful Woodlands, and I'm really excited to share with you. Today we are going to do a baby hat. So we're going to do a full pattern and it's going to be a baby hat. The majority of the patterns that we do here at Wonderful Woodlands are baby hats. So the patterns that I have tutorialed so far on YouTube have just been little embellishments, but we are going to start moving toward learning how to do some full hats. And we're going to start with one today. It's not the absolute easiest of the patterns that we offer, but it is a really beginner friendly pattern. We are going to be knitting in the round, so I'm going to call this a beginner plus pattern. But if you're still pretty new to knitting, as long as you're comfortable with a basic knit stitch and purl stitch, stick with me because I'll tutorial how to do everything today, and we're going to keep it really easy and really fun. And we're going to do a pumpkin because it's fall. And I love pumpkins and I really love this pattern. So I'm really excited to share this today. I'm going to show you two yarns really quick. This is the yarn that I used the first time when I designed the pattern. And I don't have enough of this to do a full hat. So I'm going to be using this yarn instead. Sorry, this is Lion Brand 24/7 cotton in tangerine. This is Malabrigo Rios in carrot. So I'm going to use this to knit with today. If you're brand new to knitting and you've never wound up a ball of yarn before, start with this yarn, the Lion Brand yarn, because it doesn't require winding. It's just ready to go when you buy it. This one, you buy it and then you have to wind it before you can knit with it. But I don't have enough of this one, so I'm going to use this one. Okay, let's dive right in and get started because this is going to be fun. So we are going to use, in addition to our yarn, we're going to be using double pointed needles today. You probably want 5 of them. Some packs of double pointed needles come in a set of 4 and some come in a set of 5. Most of my patterns I find much easier to work across a set of 5 needles because I tend to have a multiple of 4 stitches. You can make a little square with your stitches and I think it's easier to work that way. So I have 5. These are all aluminum and they're size 7. So the first thing we're going to do to get started here, I'm going to give you 4 different sizes for this pattern. So I'm going to cast on 64 stitches. This is going to make a hat that is suitable for a 0 to 6 month baby. So a newborn baby up to 6 months. If you cast on 72 stitches, that's going to give you a hat that is going to size for 6 to 12 months. If you cast on 80 stitches, that's going to give you a hat that will size for a 1 to 3-year-old baby. And if you cast on 88 stitches, that's going to give you a hat that will size for a 3 to 10-year-old child. So depending on who you're knitting this for, you can pick your size. I'm going to do the smallest size, but all the instructions are going to be exactly the same. So just follow along and you're just going to use a different number of stitches, but that's okay. So to get started here, we're going to do a knit cast on method today. So the first thing we have to do is we have to make a slip knot. So take your yarn in both of your hands here. We're going to fold one side over the other so that you have a little twist here. And then you're going to catch the yarn that's on the bottom through the hole, pull it through and make a little loop right here. You don't need a super long tail. This should be okay for us today. Then you're going to take your first needle and you're going to slide it through the loop, and then you're just going to pull on the end here to make this tight. Not tight, but just snug up against the needle. Now we're going to leave our short tail off to the side here. We don't need this for the rest of our casting on. You're going to take your second needle here and you're going to have both of your needles going through this loop of yarn. Now we're going to take our longer tail of yarn here. This is the tail that's attached to your whole ball. We're going to wrap it around the bottom needle. We're going to catch this loop on the underside, and then we're going to thread this loop back on to our left-hand needle. So now you can take both of these edges and just tighten them up a little bit. You see we have 2 stitches here, and then we're going to keep going. So to get 64 stitches, I need 16 stitches on each of my needles because I'm going to be working across 4 different needles for this pattern. So we're just going to keep going. I'm going to actually cast on 18 stitches and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. So catch your loop and pass it back onto the left-hand needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your loop, pass it back onto the needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your loop, pass it back onto the needle. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to 18, 7, 8, 9, And I have a separate video for the knit cast on method. So if I'm going too quickly for you here and you need me to slow down a little bit, I'm gonna link to that video so you can go check out that video. It's the exact same cast on that we're doing right here. And then you can come back once you've gotten all your stitches on. How many stitches do I have here? Let me count these real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I think this is 18. Sometimes I count wrong. I'm gonna count again here just to double check before we keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, now we're gonna introduce a second needle. So we're gonna take the 2 stitches on the end and we're gonna slide them onto our right hand needle here. So we're gonna take 2 stitches and we're just gonna slip them over. And then I'm going to keep going here. So now we're gonna take a 3rd needle. This needle is just gonna hang here and we're gonna keep casting on. So you're gonna go both needles through the 1st stitch here, take your yarn, wrap your yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it onto the needle. And we're just gonna keep doing this. We're gonna go for 18 stitches on this needle and 18. Okay, now we're gonna add a 3rd needle here. We're gonna take our 2 stitches, we're gonna slip them onto needle number 3. So both needles going through the 1st stitch on the needle, wrap your yarn around, catch your stitch, pass it on to the needle. Wrap your yarn around, catch your stitch, pass it onto the needle. I know you have 2 needles just kind of clunking around down here. This is the only frustrating part about knitting in the round on double pointed needles is kind of the cast on, but if you can get through the cast on, it gets a lot easier from here. So we're just gonna keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're going to 18 again. And 18, and I'm gonna count all of these again at the end when we finish here. So if I don't have 18 stitches before we move on, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna count to make sure they're right. But I'm gonna wait till I get to the end. So I need 4 needles with 16 stitches. So I'm gonna take my next needle here, I'm gonna pass 2 onto this needle. And then this needle only needs 16 because this is our last needle. We don't have to cast on 18 because we're not gonna have to move 2 stitches over to the next needle. So if you're doing a bigger size hat than I am, I'm doing 16 stitches per needle, which is gonna give me 64 stitches. If you're doing 72 stitches, you're gonna want 18 stitches per needle. If you're doing 80 stitches, you're gonna want 20 stitches per needle. And if you're doing 88 stitches, you're gonna want 22 stitches per needle. So you'll have to do just a little bit of math. And then I always add 2 to whatever needle I'm working on so I can slip 2 over to the next needle. I hope that makes sense. It's just exactly how we did it here. It's why we cast on 18 instead of 16. 16, and that should be it. This is exciting. Okay, before we go anywhere, we want to count our stitches one more time because if you don't, we're working a pattern. And if you don't have the right number of stitches, your pattern's going to be off. It's going to be really frustrating. So count your stitches real quick. You should have 16 or 18 or 20 or 22 per needle. Perfect. Sometimes I count wrong. If you count wrong and you need more or less stitches on a needle, you'll just slide. So like if this needle had 15 stitches, I would slide a stitch over from this needle, and then I would create one more on the end of this needle. If this one had too many, say this one had 17, then I would slide a stitch off of this needle onto this needle, and I would drop just my last stitch here. Let me show you how to do this really quick. If you just take the last stitch at the end of the row and drop it, then all of a sudden you go down a stitch. So if you need to make more or less, you can just drop the stitches off the end to make less, or you can just add an extra stitch on the end to make more. Okay, now we're gonna set this up to work in the round. So pull pull all of your stitches on each needle so that they're about in the middle of the needle. You don't want them all the way to one end or the other. And then we're gonna set these up in a circle here. I have my long tail on the right side because this is gonna be our working needle. So this is the needle right here that's gonna go into your left hand first. And then the last thing we wanna do before we go into knitting here is we just wanna look and we wanna make sure there's no twists. So we wanna see an even line all the way around. This looks good, there's no twists. If your needles are a little twisted, you wanna just, there we go. Yeah, you can see the seam around the edge. You just want a nice straight seam all the way around the edge. You don't want any of your needles twisted. So once this is all set up, pinch these two needles with these two fingers. And our first round, we're gonna go knit 3, purl 1. So you're gonna take your right hand, this is your new right hand needle here. This needle right here is gonna be your left hand needle. Remember, this is the one with the short tail coming off of it. And we're gonna go for a knit stitch on the first stitch on the needle. So both of your needles are going through the same stitch. This is on the bottom right now. We need to bring it up here to the top for a knit stitch. So it's gonna come around the needle this way. We're gonna catch the loop. Oop, I didn't go through the, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, you're gonna catch the loop here, and then you're gonna slide your stitch off. Now we're gonna do it again. Both needles are going through the new first stitch on the needle. You're gonna catch the loop and slide the stitch off. Both needles are going through the next stitch, wrap the yarn around, catch the stitch, slide it off. Now we're gonna go for a purl stitch because our pattern is knit 3, purl 1. So we're gonna bring this over to the front for a purl stitch. This is gonna come through toward the left instead of going through toward the right. It's gonna come through the opposite side of the stitch. You're gonna wrap your yarn around, catch your stitch, slide it off. Then bring it back to the back for a knit stitch. So we're gonna go knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, bring your yarn over to the front, purl 1, slide the stitch off, bring the yarn back to the back. Knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, yarn to the front, purl 1. And now we're just gonna move in a circle around our needles. So the next needle that we're gonna work on is this one. This is our new left-hand needle. All of your needles right now have 4 stitches on them. So at the end of, this is great because at the end of your pattern of knit 3, purl 1, you should always end your needle on a purl 1 stitch. And if you end on your knit 1, your knit 2, or your knit 3 stitch, it means that you got off of the pattern somewhere. So every needle is going to be worked in multiples of 4. So you'll go knit 3, purl 1, and you're always going to end the needle with a purl 1 stitch, which is great for keeping track of your progress. All right, so for round 2, this one is gonna go purl 1, knit 1, purl 2. This is our first stitch. This stitch here where this is our cast on end where we joined our ends together. This one always ends up being just a little bit loose. So I like to pull just a little bit tighter on this first stitch to keep it snug for working in the round. But if you have a little gap here after a couple rounds, you're not gonna notice it. So it's not a huge big deal. So purl 1, then we're gonna knit the next stitch. Then you're gonna bring your yarn back to the front and then we're gonna purl 2. Like the last row, this one is worked across 4 stitches. So at the end of your row, you should have just finished on a purl 2, and that will tell you that you are still in sequence with the pattern. Wait a minute. Purl 1, move your yarn to the back, knit 1, purl 2, 1, 2, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, purl 2. And then this is our last set of 4, purl 1, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, and purl 2. And then we're just going to shift like last time. This is going to become our new next needle, our new left needle, and you're just going to work all the way around until you get back to the beginning, which is marked by your cast on tail here. Now you are going to keep working this pattern in the round. This is called a seated rib stitch. So you're going to keep repeating round 1 and round 2 until your hat measures 6.5 inches for a 0 to 6 month size, 7 inches for a 6 to 12 month size, 7.5 inches for a 1 to 3 year size, and 8 inches for a 3 to 10 year size. So I will meet you back here once your pattern is as long as you want it to be, and then we'll talk about how to bind off and add your stem. All right, so your piece should now be 6.5, 7, 7.5, or 8 inches long, depending on which pattern you're doing. And here's how we're gonna measure. I don't measure using the needle, so I start my ruler with the first stitch off the needle, and then you can see we go all the way down to the end here. We're right at 6.5 inches, so this is perfect. Now the next row we're gonna learn what's called a centered double decrease. This stitch is, you'll also see it abbreviated as S2KP, which means slip to knit pass. So here's what this is going to do. It's going to preserve our ribbing that we have going here, which is why we're going to use this one. So we're going to start, we're at the beginning of our round here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to slip 2 stitches. So you're going to insert your needle into the first 2 stitches on the needle as if you were going to knit them, but you're not going to knit them. You're just going to slide them right off the end so that they're on this needle now. And they're going to be backwards, they're going to be twisted, but it doesn't matter. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna knit 1 stitch. So we're gonna do a knit stitch here, and then we're gonna pass these over. So we're gonna take these 2 stitches and we're gonna pass them back over the stitch that we just knit. So we've just decreased by 2. Now we're gonna bring our yarn to the front and we're gonna do a knit stitch. And we're gonna do this all the way around. So we're gonna go slip 2, knit 1, pass, and then yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, slip 2, knit 1, pass the stitches over, yarn to the front, purl 1. Slip 2, oops, slip 2, knit 1, pass the stitches back over, yarn to the front, and purl 1. Now you're going to keep doing this all the way around. Okay, now for round 2, we're just going to do 1 by 1 ribbing all the way around. So we're going to start with our first stitch. We're going to go knit 1 and then purl 1. Yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and then just continue this all the way to the end of the round. Okay, for round 3, this time all we're gonna do is knit 2 together. So you're gonna take your first 2 stitches on the needle, you're gonna slide both stitches through the first 2 stitches. But instead of slipping them off this time like we did in the double decrease, the center double decrease, this time we're gonna knit them together. So we're just gonna go for a regular knit stitch through 2 stitches instead of 1 stitch. And we're gonna do this stitch is the only stitch we're gonna do all the way around. So go through 2 stitches and knit, and then go through 2 stitches and knit, and then go through 2 stitches and knit. And then go ahead and continue this all the way around until you get to the end of the round. Okay, this is round 4. This round, all we're gonna do is knit. Super easy. So you're just gonna knit every stitch all the way around. Okay, now this is our last round. So we're on round 5 here, and we're gonna do the same thing as we did on round 3. We're gonna knit 2 together on every stitch all the way around. However, because we have so few stitches now, we're gonna move our stitches around, and I'm just gonna have my stitches split across 2 needles instead of 4 needles. So I'm gonna start getting rid of needles here. So I'm gonna set this one off to the side, and I'm gonna keep knitting with this needle, and I'm gonna work these stitches off of my next needle. So I'm gonna go here until I have 4 stitches. And then once I have 4, then I'm gonna combine these 2 needles over here. This is just gonna make this easier to work with since there's kind of a lot going on. So we're gonna go knit 2 together. Knit 2 together, get rid of this needle. And then we're gonna keep working across this needle right here. We're gonna go knit 2 together, knit 2 together. I have 8 stitches left. If you're doing a bigger pattern, you're gonna have a few more stitches than I do, but that's okay. And this is the end of our orange here. All right, the next thing we're gonna do here is switch colors. So you're either, at this point, you're either gonna have 8, 9, 10, or 11 stitches left. If you wanna cut a tail from your orange yarn here, carrot, glazed carrot, you can do that, or if you wanna cut a tail later, either way is fine. I have 8 stitches here. We're gonna switch to, this yarn is Cafe au Lait from Lion Brand 24/7 yarn. So to switch colors, you're just gonna make a loop here with your shorter tail off to the end, and we're gonna catch the loop and start knitting with it on the needle. So we're gonna do a knit 2 together stitch here. So you can see I'm going through 2 stitches. And we're gonna knit 2 together all the way around here. So we're gonna go 1, and then after your first stitch, you can drop the first tail. Just don't pull hard, because if you pull hard, you're gonna pull it through. 2, leave just enough slack so it kind of sits there. We'll drop this needle, and then we're gonna go down to 2 needles, and we're gonna work an I-cord here. 3, and 4. Okay, if you have more stitches, let's see. If you had 9 stitches, you're gonna end up with 5 stitches here, so you'll knit your last stitch. If you had 10 stitches, you're gonna end up with 5 stitches. You'll knit all the stitches doing knit 2 together stitches. And then if you had 11 stitches, you'll knit the last stitch and you'll end up with 6 stitches. So from here, we're gonna work a 4-stitch I-cord. Give just a little bit of a tug on this tangerine yarn over here so these stitches stay nice and tight. So for my I-cord, I'm already down to 4 stitches, so I'm just gonna start working straight across in an I-cord. If you have 5 or 6 stitches, you're gonna do 1 or 2 knit 2 together stitches on this row to get down to 4 stitches. Okay, so from here, we're gonna start working this as an I-cord. We're now on 1 needle. If we were gonna keep working in the round, we would be working on this stitch first, but because we're gonna work an I-cord, we're now gonna switch to the other side of the needle, and we're gonna work this stitch first. So you can see your yarn here is coming off the stitch on the left, and you wanna have your work facing you so that the stitch on the right does not have yarn coming off of it. So for an I-cord, we're just gonna work straight knit stitches across these needles. It's really easy on double pointed needles. So you're gonna bring your yarn across the back, catch it for a knit stitch, and then slide it off. And we're gonna do 4 stitches here. Remember, don't pull too tight because you have a Cafe au Lait tail down here. You can actually pull that just to keep your stitches nice and snug on the back. And then the easy part about an I-cord is we're just gonna slide them down to the other side and keep going. So now your tail is coming off this stitch again, and we're gonna start on this stitch over here. So we're gonna do 5 rounds of an I-cord. That was 1. We're gonna do 2. And 5. And then for row 6, we're gonna go down to 3 stitches. So we're gonna go knit 2 together. And we're gonna work a 3-stitch I-cord, and then we'll knit 1, knit 2, and then we'll slide these over to the other side. So this is gonna give our stem, you can see our stem here is gonna get a little skinnier as it goes up to the top, just to give it a little bit of texture and personality. This is row 2. Sorry, this is actually row 7. And then we're gonna do row 8. Row 9, I think I'm gonna go to 10. The fun part here is you can actually make this as long as you want. So if you wanna keep going and make yours longer, you are welcome to do so, but I think I'm gonna stop after 10 stitches. I'm sorry, 10 rows, that's number 10. Yeah, that's nice. So from here, we're gonna do, this will be our last row we're gonna bind off. So we're gonna do a knit 2 together, then we'll knit 1, and then we're gonna take our right stitch and we're gonna pass it over our left stitch. And then I always make a big hole here, and then I take my entire ball of yarn and I pass it through the hole. And then you can pull tight on this so that it doesn't pull out. And you can see we just about have a pumpkin here. It's oh so cute. Okay, now the last thing we're gonna do here is just weave our ends in. So leave yourself maybe 4 inches or so of a tail for each your glazed carrot and your cafe au lait colors. And then you'll want to get a yarn needle or a tapestry needle, and we are going to weave these ends in, but we're going to do it on the inside. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to tie them together. I like to make knots. Anytime I switch colors, I like to make a knot because it just kind of anchors the yarn and makes it less likely to pull out. So now I'm going to take both these tails, I'm going to pass them to the inside of my work here. There's one. This one's gonna have to weave in on the I-cord, because if I weave this in on orange, you're gonna see it. So we're just gonna make a couple of passes up here. My rule for weaving ends in is 3 stitches in 3 different directions, and that works on an I-cord too. So we're just gonna catch 3 stitches here, kind of up and down the I-cord, and this will hide this tail nicely for us. Last pass over here, we'll go 1, 2, and 3. And then I don't really want to cut this here because I don't want the tail sticking out, so I'm going to kind of hide it in the middle. I'm going to send it down into the middle, and I'm going to cut the tail down here on the inside so that if it pulls out a little, I don't have a tail sticking out in the middle of the stem. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with the I-cord up at the top. 3 stitches in 3 different directions. And then same thing, I'm gonna send this down through the middle, and I'm gonna actually trim the end on the inside. So now if I flip this inside out, you can see I have my 2 brown tails here and I have my orange tail right here. So I'm ready to trim my brown tails. And then I have 2 orange tails. I have one at the top and one at the bottom. So we're gonna do 3 stitches in 3 different directions. And 1, 2, 3. So easy. Trim your tail and that's it. You're all finished. Flip it inside out and you have a darling cute little pumpkin here. This stitch is so stretchy. This is why the age range on these is a wide range. This is going to fit anybody from a newborn all the way up to 6 months. It might even fit past 6 months because it's just so stretchy. This is your pumpkin baby hat. Good job, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe and come back. We will see you again next time.